basement of the Littleton Opera House on Union Street in beautiful Littleton, New Hampshire on such a glorious day. Today's topic is going to be Professor Thaddeus Lowe. Now, I never realized how famous that man was until I started running across videos about him on YouTube. Professor Lowe was born in Jefferson, New Hampshire, all right? Died in Pasadena, California. Now, you might be wondering, why is Littleton featuring Professor Lowe, who came from Jefferson, New Hampshire, just a little bit north, what would be northeast of us, and died in Pasadena? Well, you remember a few weeks ago, I did a program, and I'm not going to go too far, did a program on stereoscopic views, and about the Kilburn brothers and Franklin Weller and a number of people, the Littleton View Company, the Aldriches. So anyway, this is a stereoscopic viewer. Right? This back here is a stereoscopic viewer. All right? And you can see, compared to the one I'm holding in my hand, it's like the difference between a very old Volkswagen and a very, very nice Cadillac. All right? So, this is why it brought me to Thaddeus Lowe. This belonged to Professor Thaddeus Lowe. And you might say, well, okay, Professor Thaddeus Lowe. So what about Professor Thaddeus Lowe? He was the most shot at man in the American Civil War. Professor Lowe was, he was an inventor. He had a fourth grade education, borrowed books from his teachers. I mean, it's the whole Abraham Lincoln story, borrowing books, reading them by the fire at home. And so Professor Lowe actually convinced Abraham Lincoln, and you will be seeing that as our program continues, he convinced President Lincoln to use aerial reconnaissance. And we have his, I usually tell people in the air, his TV set. Now, this is really high-end. And as you can see, there's a magnifying glass in the top, and there's a photograph up there. And if you get in front of the, can you see through the thing? Can you zoom in a little bit more, Glenn? That's about as far as you can get. Okay. So there's a magnifying glass, and you would put a photograph up there, and that would enlarge that photograph. Now down here, you have the eyepieces where you would put your eyes against, like here, the viewing part. There's a knob on both sides. This would adjust the eyepieces. Then there's a knob on both sides here, and that you would use to flip the stereoscopic cards. Now, these could hold about 25 cards. Also, in the back of this, there is a little window. So you could sit in your parlor with this, put a candle or your kerosene lamp in back. And if you had a stereoscopic cards, and they did make them, they were made in France, most of them, but they were on tissue paper and they were hand colored. If you put that in here, and you have the light in the back, it would illuminate the card from the back. There is a card in here, which I can't show you. It's even hard to see from looking in through here. But if you shine a light in the back, it's a group of skeletons riding bicycles, and it's on a very fine tissue paper. Goes back to probably the 1870s. So we're looking about 130 years on this. So this was Professor Lowe's. Now, as you can see, this was a high-end article, very high-end article. I did stumble across something about these types, that back in the day, these would go into thousands of dollars. Back in the late 1800s, into the thousands of dollars, which that would be like going out now and spending, probably $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on a high-end television set. Thaddeus Lowe did have money. He was a wealthy man. As I said, he was an inventor, and he made a lot of money from his inventions. He did die in poverty, lost everything, and you will find that out when we get into the programming. So this belonged to the most shot-at man in the Civil War. Usually when I give tours, when we have guests down here, and I come here and they look at me and go, "Really?" I'm going, "Yep." My last few years of teaching 8th grade, my history book in the Civil War section had a little piece in there, and there was a photograph of Thaddeus Lowe and a balloon, and it was titled, "The Most Shot-At Man in the Civil War." We have his TV set. So now, what we're going to do, I'm going to put this down, and we are going to move over here, and I did take and turn this into a slide presentation, so it'll kind of keep me on track, and it'll be a lot easier for you to follow. Thaddeus Sobieski Kosciuszko Lowe. Now, that's one heck of a moniker. Came from a large family. He was one of 4 boys, but I believe there were like 10 children in Jefferson, New Hampshire. And hopefully my slide, there we go. August 20th, 1832 to January 16th, 1913. And as I said, born in Jefferson, New Hampshire, died in Pasadena, California. I, as a historian, wonder why Pasadena was such a destination for people from Littleton or from this area. I mean, Professor Lowe was there, and he's buried near Pasadena. Also, who else was there? Oh, Henry Tilton. Some of you may remember the Tilton House, which is that empty lot next to the bank. There's a stone wall, and there's stairs, but there is a wrought iron gate. There used to be a gorgeous mansion. They're built in the late 1850s, early 1860s by Henry Tilton. Henry Tilton ended up living in Pasadena, California. Ellen Frances Burpee Farr, wife to Major Evarts Farr from Littleton. She moved to Pasadena, California. So there's a lot of people from Littleton who moved. Matter of fact, there is a photograph, well, I don't have it over here, of Mrs. Kilburn, and it was taken on a trip to Pasadena, California. So Pasadena seemed to have been the go-to place for people from the North Country. All right. So to continue on with the slideshow. All right. And as I put here, the most shot-at man in the Civil War. Now, what he would do is he produced hydrogen out in the field. The man was brilliant. 4th grade education, major inventor. He would produce hydrogen, and I did read about how he did it. I'm not going through it because I can't remember how he did it. But I read it, I says, well, I probably should know how he did it. And there were like these 2 huge crates, wooden crates that he had out in the field. And using heat, he would extract hydrogen from water and pump the hydrogen into the balloon, thus inflating it and making it rise. That's about as far as I can go on the technological part of it. But he would get into a balloon with a soldier, and they would rise until they ran out of wire, because the soldier had a telegraph key, and they would go until they ran out of wire. And he would be up there with his binoculars spying on the Confederates. And he would tell the soldier, he would say, well, over to the northeast, there's infantry. Over on this area, there's artillery. So he would describe the whole thing. And meanwhile, in that basket, I'm talking about a wicker basket, there was a soldier crouched down in there with a small table and a small stool. He would sit there and go, and he would send what Lowe was telling him down to the logistics tent. and they would have blank maps, and the logisticians would have blank maps, and they would be filling in the locations of the different parts of whatever Lowe saw. Okay, so he was the eye on the sky, the spy in the sky, or whatever we want to call him. And being in a humongous balloon, he was oftentimes shot at. But the rifles did not have the range. And there were at least one instance where it was shot down. But I'll tell you, a very brave man to sit in a wicker basket and have someone take pot shots at him. So back to the video, not to the video, but to the slideshow. Okay. All right. On the evening of June 11th, 1861, Lowe met President Lincoln and offered to perform a demonstration with the Enterprise and a telegraph set from a height of some 500 feet above the White House. That must have been something to see. In the telegraph message, Lowe said, "I have the pleasure of sending you this first dispatch ever telegraphed from an aerial station." And this is from a program from the Aeronautical Museum in Washington, D.C., and it's called, and I'm hoping that this works, it's called a, oh, good. I had it. Oh, I found it. Okay, now there will be a short video coming up if my machine decides to answer. And here it is. Maybe here it is.
We're standing here on the National Mall in front of the National Air and Space Museum. In 1861, this is the spot where the first Smithsonian secretary, Joseph Henry, instructed Thaddeus Lowe to set up to do his balloon observation demonstration. Thaddeus Lowe was a really interesting guy. He was just a consummate showman. At the time of the invention of the balloon, people realized that it did have military implications. Lowe was trying to demonstrate the ability of the balloon to be tethered over a spot and see what was happening behind enemy lines. He sent a telegram from the air to Abraham Lincoln, said he could see the Union military camps laid out in the area. He could see across the river into Alexandria, and he claimed he could actually see more than he could actually see. He just wanted the president to know that you got a whale of a view from 500 feet in the air. After the flight, they walked the balloon down the mall and around the corner to the White House. While Lowe was still in the basket, Lincoln came out, talked to him. He was fascinated by it. He got Lowe to spend the night in the White House so they could continue to talk. And by the next morning, Lincoln was absolutely sold. That led to the creation of a balloon corps for the Union Army, first military aviation organization in American history. So what began here on the National Mall in Washington had real implications.
All right. Now, I will try. Someone's trying to call in, and it's just not going to happen. Okay. Now, watching this, all right, watching this, it was absolutely, when I saw this yesterday, I thought, my word, being a history person as I am, and to knowing that we have this, and Professor Lowe, who we had just seen on this short video, and I've been speaking about for the past 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Professor Lowe and his family, he was married, had 10 children. Very interesting. He married a French actress. I almost said movie star. This is before movies. But a French actress, all right, met her one day. A week later, they were married, all right. Moved the whole family from New England, wife and 10 kids, moved to California, built her a house, 23,000 square feet. It's a big house, I would say. And but to think about it is that the gentleman you're watching the program about used to use this instrument. He touched this instrument. He used it. His wife, his children used it for entertainment. We have it. And there aren't many of these around. They're as rare as I like to say, they're as scarce as hen's teeth. Now we'll come back over here. Okay. Now, just to fill in a little bit more here, Lowe's scientific endeavors were cut short by the onset of the American Civil War. Offering his services performing aerial reconnaissance on the Confederate troops for the Union Army in July 1861, Lowe was appointed chief aeronaut of the Union Army Balloon Corps by President Abraham Lincoln. Though his work was generally successful, it was not fully appreciated by all members of the military. You know, it's kind of like, you know, one of those newfangled things. We just don't take the newfangled things. It's not the way we do it. All right. And Lowe returned to the private sector. His pay was cut. He resigned in 1863, went back to the private sector and continued his scientific exploration on hydrogen gas manufacturing. He invented the water gas process by which large amounts of hydrogen gas could be produced from steam and charcoal. His inventions and patents on this process and ice-making machines made him a millionaire. He actually made, the reason why we have refrigeration in our home, we can check back to this gentleman right here. He was the founder of refrigeration, ice-making machines. And as I said, what astounds me is the curiosity that this man must have had as a boy. He has a 4th grade education. He's known as Professor Lowe. No college, but he certainly earned the title of professor. Man was brilliant, just never-ending curiosity. Now we're going to come back to this. All right. Now, he had another dream. While in California, all right, the Great Incline on Mount Lowe. There's a Mount Lowe in California. I never knew that, did you? And it says here, the railway on opening day, July 4th, 1893. The band went up while they were playing Nearer My God to Thee, which is appropriate. Some people say that was the song played when the Titanic went down. We don't know. I wasn't there. But to just fill in a little bit more, okay, the difference between this and other scenic mountain railways of its kind was that it was all electric. It was all electric. Now, Lowe knew of the cog railway. He knew the cog railroad, okay? I mean, because it was built in 1869. It opened in 1869, so he knew, okay? And it was an electric trolley, the only one of its kind to ever exist. Oak Mountain was later renamed Mount Lowe. And to make it official, Andrew McNally, the co-founder of the map company, Rand McNally. Yes, McNally named it Mount Lowe. Okay? And so they had moved, actually Rand McNally had moved to Pasadena, California, which is where this was located, all right, and had Mount Lowe printed on the maps. So we still have his TV set over here, his stereo viewer, all right. Now, just to give an idea, if I can luck out, there we go. There was another video to give you an idea about this this machine that went up. Oh, come on. I'm trying to get it to. Okay, this should hopefully stop downloading. But there's movies of the original car. Is it happening? No, it went to the very end. And I got something that I just don't want. Okay, well, let's keep on going. All right, I have a little bit more I can read there, and then we'll try again. Professor Thaddeus Lowe, the first man to cross the Atlantic in a balloon. That was his dream, to go across the Atlantic in a balloon. All right, he had 200 patents. All right, dreamed of a railroad up the mountain, up the mountains of Los Angeles. He chose the hills above Pasadena, and on that date, July 4th, 1893, dream opened. It was destroyed by fire, and the Disneyland of his time is now a faded memory. What brought Professor Lowe to financial ruin was he built an 80-room hotel. He built an observatory and had a 16-inch telescope. There were a number of astronomical discoveries done from there. But all the buildings except for the observatory at one time or another caught fire and burned to the ground. So that brought Professor Lowe, and I'm going to try to, looking at it sideways, it's not the easiest thing. Here we go. I'm going to turn it this way so I can do my adjustments, and then I will have it back.
Another famous trip was promoted by the far-flung Pacific Electric Interurban Empire. Another famous trip was promoted by the far-flung Pacific Electric Interurban Empire around Los Angeles. An incline took passengers 1,300 feet up to Echo Mountain. From there, a narrow gauge trolley wound its way farther upward. From the end of the line, 2 hours ride from Los Angeles, the more energetic tourists could climb another 1,100 feet to the summit of Mount Lowe itself.
I like how they're dressed.
Just yesterday morning, they let me know you were gone.
Now, to continue with this, you can see that there's some, there is a cog in it. It was electric, but going up that hill, there was a cog. So this is what, and also what got me was looking at the construction, the bridges, how they were built. You notice those, and it brings back the memories of the cog railroad here on Mount Washington. There's the hotel that he built, 80-room hotel, and there were just so many, so much that he had, and over a period of time, each of the buildings burned to the ground. And as you can see, they were beautifully done, beautifully, you know, he didn't skimp anywhere. So I'm going to try to move this back. I'll take this back, and okay, Cool. All right. Got that, Glenn?
Yep.
All right. As I said, he had a 4th grade education, borrowed books from teachers. He developed the gas heat and gas lighting. Okay. Most of the gas was done back in the day during when they had gas lighting. He developed a cleaner, safer gas lighting, a brighter one. All right. And see number 3. Majority of American homes in 1800s lit and heated by Lowe's Gas Company. That's why the gentleman was a multimillionaire. Major invention was the ice maker. And as I said, millionaire, 23,000 square foot house. Lost everything financially. He ended up dying at his daughter's home in California. All right. And we're getting close to an end. There was a program that I thoroughly enjoy watching on YouTube. And if you like history, you will enjoy this. It's a wee bit morbid. But the programming is called Hollywood Graveyards. And you can actually visit the grave of Thaddeus Lowe. And the thing that really shocked me is I never really knew he went to Pasadena. And I didn't know he was buried in California next to his wife. And I believe 2 of his sons and a daughter is buried there in the same plot. And it's a sizable monument. It has Lowe engraved on the bottom. But if you check out Hollywood Graveyards on YouTube and check out, for Thaddeus Lowe's, it's really a nice piece of history. And also the videos that I showed you, I think the folks who put them together, you can find all those on YouTube, and you can do a search on YouTube, and there are many, 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 many more programs that you can watch and learn a lot more about Professor Thaddeus Lowe. So, thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed today's program. And as I have here, like us on our Facebook page and Instagram and TripAdvisor. And now we do have a YouTube channel. So if you have friends who like Littleton history or like history just in general, and they don't have Facebook, they can go to YouTube. And what you do is just have them type in Littleton Historical Society. Must be capital L, capital H, capital S. That'll bring you to the area, and then you will see our logo. Click on it, and there right now I believe there's either 9 or 10 programs, and I am still working on downloading more. So you can actually do a few hours of binge watching of local history. So thank you for watching. Stay tuned again. We'll be back on Saturday morning at 10:30. Have a great